Hello, everyone. Here with Fabian, we will be telling you a bit about how to use GeneXus 18 to create user experiences that will follow design and usability practices that are modern in such a way that whatever you do with GeneXus will follow one single source of truth in terms of design and user experience. So let's imagine for a moment that you have all the tools that allow you to generate in an easy way, in a similar way, that all your user interface is going to behave exactly in the same way. That by activating in your knowledge bases in GeneXus a GAM security module or business processes, so the whole workflow module will automatically mean that all the admin back offices, roles, permits, processes, and tasks, it will make them follow the same design guidelines. This is what we have achieved with Unanimo in GeneXus 18. Unanimo is a design system that we have created with a team of experts in usability and design in the GeneXus team, seeking to give cohesion and consistency to the whole interface that we generate when we build applications with GeneXus. Not only what we build, but the whole suite that makes up the GeneXus products list. Amongst the fundamentals we will find in Unanimo, you have, first of all, that it was thought as the new default mode. So that is going to be the new default system for design that you're going to get with GeneXus 18. So when you create a knowledge base in GeneXus 18 nowadays, all the forms will be predetermined to be based on Unanimo. All the objects generated from the application of patterns included in GeneXus will be following this line. And also all the other components of the suite, features that we have in GeneXus, such as when you build a chatbot, or perhaps when you're building a dashboard, or you activate the security mode, or GX flow through process management. So this definition of Unanimo as a design system was conceptualized based on tokens and styles that what they do is they provide us with that much needed consistency throughout your system, regardless of the interface or the device or the platform that we will be developing on. So this gives us the possibility of having one single source of truth like Unanimo, and with this we can impact all user experiences from web applications up to native mobile applications or conversational interfaces. Unanimo has brought to the table a new language that will allow us to interact in a simpler way with designers, with developers, with front-end developers, in a way that they will be integrated to the software development cycle. So Unanimo is going to allow us to customize it, not just impacting what we do in GeneXus, but also to get that customization to impact all the other components in the suite, such as the GAMS back office or GX flows, which Fabian is going to show you in the demo in short. This gives us the possibility to keep on adding and extending new classes, new tokens, and in this way we can adapt it more easily to the needs that each project may have. Also, adopting Unanimo can be incremental, so this is definitely going to make it easier for you to adopt it to those GeneXus projects and data knowledge bases that come from previous versions. Unanimo was created and designed based on the design system object. This new object in GeneXus has given us a new language to model design regardless of the platform. So this is a pioneer language with this feature that allows us to model more and program less, following what we always seek to do in GeneXus. So again, in terms of how all this looks. Okay, thank you so much, Eugenio. Now let's put all the new stuff into practice, as Eugenio mentioned. So I'm going to go to GeneXus. So here I'm going to create a knowledge base from scratch in GeneXus 18, and the idea is to see what a new knowledge base in GeneXus 18 looks like in terms of design and the setup of all the design system. So we are creating the knowledge base. And the first thing that you're going to see is in the KB Explorer that on top of the module, that is the built-in module of GeneXus, you also have the GeneXus Unanimo module. So amongst these components, you have design systems such as Unanimo. And here you have all the tokens defined and styles as well, with what has been specified in terms of the look and feel and the classes and necessary elements to implement this Unanimo design system. And we also have the particular variables for each platform, such as the web variable, which is what we're going to use now. We see that it imports from Unanimo's design system, and it also has the specific definitions for the platform. So the fact that GeneXus Unanimo is a module in itself has many advantages. For instance, you will be able to go to the global matrix, and here you can get the latest versions that you can have for GeneXus Unanimo that will have new definitions or maybe some error corrections or new elements, and you can update it independently from the updates that you are conducting in your version, your upgrade, or your build in GeneXus. So for instance, here I see that there is an available update. So you just click on update, and this GeneXus Unanimo module is going to update to the latest version. All of this is done without me having to reinstall any kind of GeneXus component. Okay, so this thing that we have just seen are some specific configurations that come with this GeneXus version, but now we're going to go to the particular knowledge base. So in this knowledge base, we created a design system that is that it's got the same name as the knowledge base. You see that there are no tokens, and that in styles, the only thing that you have is an import from the design system called Unanimo Web that, as we saw already, also imports from Unanimo. This design system is the one that will ultimately be used to give style and a look and feel to our application. So it's the one that we're going to choose here in the default style property of my version. Here I'm going to indicate which design system I'll be working with, and we're going to be using this one. And another thing that is also configured in a predetermined way is the new start page with a new value in GeneXus 18. This is a new master page that is also based on the Unanimo design system. So now we're just going to develop my application. So I've got this XPZ with a number of transactions that implement data models for an e-banking application. This is quite straightforward. For the demo, you know, it's got some user transactions, accounts, credit cards, transfers. And so I'm going to import all that. Here is my data model in the knowledge base. I'm going to open a couple of transactions, so accounts and credit cards, and I'm going to apply the work with pattern. So here I'm going to start doing some actions that are not new to GeneXus 18, but what I want you to see here is how these actions will now be impacted by this Unanimo design system when it comes to generating the application. Okay, so that we created the pattern. I'm going to create the database. I'm going to put the connection data. Okay, so we're going to create all the elements. Okay, so we create the database. And here you can see, for instance, that in the transactions, the pattern was applied, and the same objects that that were created in the previous GeneXus versions were created. So nothing's going to be new in that sense, except for the fact that all those new objects are now created and based on Unanimo's design system. So we're going to have a look and feel and a UI absolutely renovated. Okay, so there we are generating all the objects. And we're going to see that in runtime. So when you compile that, what you will see is that you will be loading data onto the different tables, and new elements will be deployed in GeneXus 18, which is the launchpad. That is the new component that shows you everything that has been generated in your knowledge bases. for web applications, native and APIs. And from there, you're going to run your application, and you will see that you have these credit cards and accounts with a totally new design that is Unanimo based. So this applies to all the elements, all the patterns, screens, transactions. So it's a completely responsive website. It also implements a sidebar menu that is quite easy to use and to customize as well. And well, so here you have predetermined your application. So all these initializations and customizations that we make in the knowledge base do not only apply to the work with pattern, which is a transaction form, but also all the components that you want to incorporate to your solution, to your application. So in the knowledge base, I've already made some changes that I've already applied for the sake of this demo. For instance, I've enabled GAM to enable security for your application. At the same time, you're creating, I've created a workflow diagram that is a simple credit approval process with a couple of tasks. I've also created some query objects, implementing a couple of graphs and a query in a pivot table, which I've added to a dashboard object to visualize it better, which is at the same time integrated in a web panel so that you can see them later on in runtime. So what is the idea of all this? That in your knowledge base, I would include reporting modules, security modules, the workflow API, also the workflow client. So all of this will be integrated into your application, to your solution. I've also taken advantage of this and made some changes to the sidebar menu, the one that we've just seen. And I've added some options to call this dashboard. That is something that I also mentioned. It's an option that you get with GAM's backend and GXFlow's backend. And I took advantage of this to also add an icon to all the different options so that you can see how easy it is to customize it. So now what I'm going to do this is to run my application again with all these applied components. So when you run it, you're going to see that, for instance, the first thing that you're going to get is the login for GAM. That, as you can see, it has a very simple style, but it comes like that by default. It has a very Unanimo-like look and feel. And you see something very similar to what we saw a couple of minutes ago. But now, for example, you can see the dashboard. And you see that I've already applied the Unanimo style in terms of fonts and colors and some other applications. And the same thing for the GAM backend. Here, what you're seeing on the screen is the GAM's backend, which we always use, also users list, that has a Unanimo style, roles, the same thing, and like that for all options. And the same thing happens with the GXFlow's backend. The style is Unanimo as well. And you see that this is integrated to the rest of the application. It is completely unified. So going back to work with, as you can see, I've made some changes as well in terms of the master page. There is a title, as you can see, and I did that by editing the master page. And here there is a button that that image, what you do when you click on it, it changes the look and feel between dark and light mode just by clicking on it in your application. So how is this implemented, having Unanimo? You just add the image for the button where you're going to press, you're going to click, and with an event where the whole thing is just a single line of code, which is the set option method that will alternate between dark and light modes. So of course, all of this is very easy as Unanimo has all the definitions for one mode and the other one. So now everything has been unified, everything looks Unanimo, but this is all the initial design. I may need to customize it a little bit further, and probably my application is going to require to have a very unique and own look and feel. So let's apply some of these definitions. Let's take a look at how it works. This is done in the design system of your knowledge base, the one that I show you today, that is created with the same name as the KB. And here is where you're going to include the customizations that you will create in the application. How are you going to do this? Well, for this, let's take a look at Unanimo's design system. You will see that you have defined all the styles and mainly tokens. So, for instance, you will see that you have some tokens for colors. So, to make some easy customizations, let's try changing the colors that my application has. So, how do you do that? Well, you just need to customize those tokens in your design system. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to go to tokens. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to paste the text with the token definition that I got from the design team, that it gives me new colors to have a different UI in my application. I also have the definition for a font. And I'm going to add some styles. This is something that I got, as I said, from the design team. Probably the text was in the same language as we're using it in the design system object. So here we have the font definition and some minor modifications in some classes regarding perhaps the edges of the element. So I'm going to save that design system, and without having to build the application, I'm going to go to the browser, I'm going to refresh the screen, and automatically all changes have been applied. So you see that the interface of your application has changed. We see that fonts have been applied in the title. You see all the new colors, completely different. You see that there are round edges in the button, which has also been applied to, for example, the transactions form. And all the work widths have the same definition of design. So now if you go to the option that is the GXFlow's backend, it still has the by default design system. Why is that? Because both Flow and GAM, they apply their own design system that is Unanimo based. And of course, I didn't make any modifications to that, so it's not going to change. But the good thing is that GeneXus 18 will allow me to indicate in the knowledge base whether I want to customize, for instance, in the GAM's backend and GXFlow's interface with your own design system. So you're going to go to these properties that appear there on the screen. For example, GAM backend style override. And there, it allows you to select a design system that is going to be used to give the style to the backend, to GAM backend, yeah? So as this is also Unanimo based, you can also apply all the customizations that you have just made to the other design system. So you're going to do the same thing for GXFlow. We need to build this to see the changes. And what you will see now in runtime is that you have the work with, as usual, with the style and the customizations that have been applied. Here in the login, you can already tell that there have been some changes. And the work widths are the same as usual. Now we go to the GAM security backend, and you see that all customizations have been applied. So all the GAM backend now has the same look and feel as the rest of my application. So not only are we keeping that uniformity, but also we can customize it depending on the different needs and requirements that you will have for your application. So in just a few steps, you have the full solution that is uniform and customized depending on your needs. Okay, so this is a bit about what I wanted to show you. As you can see in that demo that Fabi has just done, adopting Unanimo in new projects, so new knowledge bases, using GeneXus 18 is very simple. Everything has been predetermined, predefined, and it's built in GeneXus. For those projects and those knowledge bases that were already built in the theme Carmine, it's going to be very easy to migrate to Unanimo And for that, we have created some guidelines that in just a few steps, you will be guided so that you can migrate your system to this new design system. And those knowledge bases that already had their own design system through different themes, well, you will have the possibility to start adopting Unanimo in an incremental way. So you don't need to migrate everything at once. You can do that module by module, object by object. Okay, so what's important about this is that after GeneXus 18, Unanimo is the new design system that is predetermined. And those that have your knowledge bases in previous versions and that are starting with GeneXus 18, you will not see any changes until you want to see them. Okay, so if you want to know more about Unanimo, do go to genexus.com/Unanimo and needless to say, adopt it as the new base for your design system. We have worked so that GeneXus 18 is the best version to model user experiences. We are absolutely convinced that it is the best version to design and model systems that are future-proof. Thank you so much. Thank you.